One more time for Sandy, come on. Sandy, who writes and reads poetry the way it's meant to be written. Do you notice she's not reading anything? She has it in her head, right, where it belongs, but then sharing it with us. Thank you for that, Sandy. All right, I've been slipped a note because apparently I forgot to announce something. There's a workshop coming up on May 25th. I wonder if that's part of my shtick here. Maybe I'll get info about that. No, okay, there's a workshop on May 25th, Connor Kerr workshop. I'm sure it's good. It's going to be about poetry, I'm very sure. And you should sign up for that. And for more information, probably check our website. It's on there? Yeah, okay.
He's a professor of writing at the University of Alberta.
Uh-huh.
He's won and GG finalist, etc., etc.
Okay, great guy, great workshop, May 25th. So that's in 3 weeks, roughly 3 weeks. Okay, and now we come to the grand finale of our evening here with Catherine Owen, who is all eager to read to us from the one book copy left. Well, the others are in the room, but they are not to be read from right now. Catherine Owen is a Vancouver writer who moved to Edmonton and bought a 1905 house in 2018. She's the author of 16 collections of poetry and prose, including The Wrecks of Eden, published at Wolsak Wynn in 2002, Frenzy at Anvil Press 2009, and Riven ECW 2020. She edits, she runs the performance series 94th Street Trobairitz. Got it right? Okay. Reviews and hosts the podcast. That is not too often coming here. Is it Miss Lyrics Poetry Outlaws? Oh, that's interesting. She also has 4 cats and grows 14-foot sunflowers. Oh, that's tall. Okay, Catherine, please delight us with your book.
Canada is the Rocky Mountains. Canada is Prince Edward Island. Canada is a country made for love. Canada is the prairie cowboy. Canada is the Yukon miner. Canada is a country full of love. Mon pays, ce n'est pas mon pays, c'est l'hiver. Mon jardin, ce n'est pas mon jardin, c'est la plaine. Mon chemin, ce n'est pas mon chemin, c'est la neige. Mon pays, ce n'est pas mon pays, c'est l'hiver. I left Vancouver in the blazing sun on the 9th of February, 61. From the 10th of February through till May, rained in poured all night and day. Yeah, the more they try to bring me down, the better I live in this here town. The more they try to drag me down, the better I like Vancouver town. Oh, the prairie lights are burning bright. The Chinook winds are moving in. Tomorrow night I'll be Alberta bound. Though I've done the best I could, my old luck ain't been so good. Tomorrow night I'll be Alberta bound. Alberta bound, Alberta bound. It's good to be Alberta bound. Alberta bound, Alberta bound. It's good to be Alberta bound. Dedication for a home. When I bought this house, I wanted it to be my house alone. I wanted to own it. Not in that way. Oh, I know no one really owns anything. Or that I yearn to dominate a piece of land and extirpate its weeds and natives and irrational elements to tame it. Or that I don't know a dead man's money helped to buy it and it was his wish and so he can claim ghost ownership. Or that I don't know I will die and the house pass on to other wild dreamers or else be eaten by a machine, and its drifting cells transform into this era's abode, shiny and cold and new. When I bought this house, I wanted to own it like I've learned to own my body, so I could say no to any non-agreed shifting of boundaries, so I could define where the art would hang, the book slot, each knick-knack assume its magical place. So no man could say to me again, we're done, because I'm a wrong kind of woman. And with his hands or feet and voice kick me out, so that I could only lose on my own terms, or close to them. When I bought this house, I recalled all the women who have been barred from ownership, who have lived solely under the sway, the pain of others, and wanted to honor them by keeping this house in my name and only leaving it when my own machine came and my cells said, let's move on out into the world. I'm so happy to be here. It's been so long. I started reading Planet Earth poetry probably 2006. And before that, Mokumbopo with Wendy Morton. And as we all know, things have not been going as they used to go. And the last time I read here, it was at Black Stilt, and it was 2017, and I read with Heather Spears, who has since passed on. And it was just such an amazing evening. And I thought, oh, I'll be back. I'll be back in 2020. I had 2 books out, poetry and memoirs. And I thought, I'm going to be back, of course. And yeah, 7 years later. Yeah. And interestingly, possibly, right after I left Planet Earth Poetry last time in June 2017, I got on the back of a Harley and flew off the Harley on a gravel road in Kelowna. And yeah, it has nothing to do at all with Planet Earth Poetry, but I just thought it was interesting that that's how I ended my 2017 tour. I'm not doing that this time. There's no way my body is getting on a Harley anymore, alas, or not. So this is Moving to Delilah, and I wrote it over the course of 5 years, which is the time I've owned my house. And there's, apart from prologues and codas, there's 3 parts: the house, the garden, and the neighborhood. So I'll read a couple of poems from each. Now the house part goes back and forth between, well, my house is from 1905. So I had to do some research. I had to try to connect to the past of my house and figure out what the realm around the house was like then. So it kind of moves back and forth between the past and then things I did to the house. Because everybody who owns an old house, there's stuff you got to do to it. And sometimes a poem comes out of it. I had to do the roof. I had to do the plumbing. There was like 1905 pipes in that house when I bought it. I mean, I didn't personally do the plumbing, but I watched somebody take the pipes out of the walls. And now I have flowers. Well, I will have flowers at some point growing out of these chunks of pipe. So it still has a use. All right, so I will read a little love poem to Delilah. Now, my house did name herself. I did not name her after a Tom Jones song. The house becomes another body or your own, othered out, a wood and cement flesh, much older than yours and so able to offer endurance to the everyday, an eros of endlessness in the now. The house becomes another mind or your own, outed in its reveries of color, every wall affixed to dreams, all the furniture emblazoned with memory, a spectacular denizen, a small realm's traveler. The house, not just an edifice, an address you signed for, an agreement with time, but the wild tame you slipped inside yourself, said, my thing person, my companion shell. Anybody who reads me knows I love forms, so you'll find quite a few forms in this book. And this one is sestina. Everybody knows what a sestina. See, this is what's so marvelous about Planet Earth poetry. See, you don't have to explain things. Everybody's already educated, so it's fantastic. So the 6 words that I'm working with in this poem, which is curiously enough called 6 words, is sold, dream, garden, home, house, and leave. And it's about a nightmare I had about losing the house, because obviously when you own something, you're going to lose it, but you could also lose it before you want to lose it, or it's inevitable that you will lose it. 6 words. Last night, the only home I'd owned was sold suddenly, for no special reason, in a dream. Cash exchanged, the sign fixed in the garden, and what I'd thought was an always home to become a thing of wood and stone, a house. No, I warned the movers, you won't get me to leave. Since I was a child, I've been stubborn, wouldn't leave when told, but they insisted. Your dream home was sold. You have no choice. And down the road, another house awaits, one that may be equal to this loss, a different dream of permanence and joy. They didn't know how I defined home. Old, well lived in, colorful, and set in a garden of happily ragged proportions. The kind of garden where you might find dandelions and roses, irises within leaves, raked into a heap beneath the apple tree. The type of home where the owner's signature holds won't be sold as if it were just part of the market. That anonymous dream where homes are only things, structures, mere houses, houses upon houses, their stock rising and falling, houses and houses shuffled like heavy cards on an agent's table with their disposable gardens, their erasable lineage. Death will take all this, I know, with its dream of darkness, the sharp way it points from its shadows. You leave and you leave too. Your possessions, your hopes, all inevitably sold by someone else. Oh, the joke of it. Your ha home. That you would imagine for an instant a permanent home? When you are essentially water and your home a house that in the night was unceremoniously behind your back sold, the walls, floors, ceilings, the stairs, doors, windows, the gardens all dispatched, and you informed by the great mover to leave. And was this, or was it not only a terrible dream, just another reverie of an anxious mind? A dream that denies the thing you crave, a place named home, this solid symbol of self you never have to leave, though time will remind you of object facts, that this is a house, not a resurrection machine. And that perfect garden, it's not a land that can't be sold, and yet your house, your garden won't yet be sold. In this holy dream of home, you refuse to leave. Yeah, it's amazing how beautiful and how anxiety riddling owning a house is. It's just, for somebody that has OCD especially, it's like, it just can't be clean and fixed enough, and then something else is falling apart. Oh, on a poet's budget? Good luck. So I'll read from 2 poems from the neighborhood section, which goes out from my next door neighbor, out and out and out to, I live in an area called Alberta Avenue, which is a lot of old homes, and it's a neighborhood that people go, oh, aren't you afraid to live there? No, I'm a poet. I am afraid of nothing. So it's got its sketch areas, obviously. You go to 118th and then you go downtown in my book, and then you go further out, and there was a bunch of pandemic road trips I went on to see little towns in Alberta, and I ended up in Hinton because, you know, now I'm an Edmontonian, I can't write a Calgary poem. So I'll read the poem about, so my next door neighbor, an old person, well, 2 old people, but so they're basically housebound in a lot of ways, and from time to time there are people in the neighborhood who decide to try their doors and see if they can get in. So this is a true story about, so I have a book box in front of my house. There might be a connection between this woman I saw in my neighbor's backyard and the book box, but it changed my whole feeling about B&Es. to the thief who reads poetry. We live in a neighborhood of roamers, pickers, backyard pissers. So it wasn't even her wandering in Joe and Jane's snowy enclosure that startled, or her slipping beneath the cedars to pee. It was how she lied to me once I called, "Can I help you?" as she yanked the back door, teetered on its rotting sill, and claimed to be the granddaughter of the old couple who lives there. "I just forgot my key." Yet when I asked for her name, she became stranger, closed, refused, a young girl only, seemingly not sketched out, but obviously not a relation either. Then I noticed the book in her hand, a white slab with stark 70s lettering, Anne Jumigelski's Woman Reading in Bath, and almost stopped questioning her motivations. Wanted to let her into the neighbors with a secret password, fill the tub high, enable her to honor the title, sink into its surreal dreams. Poetry being its own thieving after all, its own set of sweet lies, a perfect disguise against a world that needs you to build fences and say to almost everything in the end, "You don't belong here, and where's your receipt?" And then she fled, the poems of a dead Canadian poet, cynosure, into the streets. And here's another poetry one, actually. It's about Hinton and Jarvis Lake, and there's this wonderful little pool there. It's very deep, and it's called Kelly's Bathtub. And I got taken there by my other next door neighbor a couple of years ago. And I just thought to myself, no matter what a good time I'm having, I'm still going to write a poem that's pissed off at things or melancholic or annoyed. So I thought, man, poets are shitty people. Kelly's Bathtub, Jarvis Lake, Hinton, Alberta. The sand, scruffy. A girl in a swipe of a bikini swims with a large scared dog. An old lady, miserable as Hagar, gripes, "This is a place of leashes." Everything is inflatable. Fat families grow fatter during picnics. Unicorns and flamingos and donuts plump themselves in the shallows. There are no photos snapped without ameliorating filters. Beauty is squandered on humans. The crisp waters offer some momentary happiness. A breeze shudders through most sorrows. A sliding of sun makes even the rudest of my scars bearable. Then I notice the sad things. Above the minnowed surface, a moth folds into a soft boat. Loons further their silences in the smoke. Poets are awful people. There is no possible sufficiency for us. Is this true? My partner's always like, would you just like relax and just not think for a while? It's like, no. I can't be a musician. Okay, so I'm going to read 3 poems to end from the middle section, which is the garden. And yes, I did find some sufficiency in my garden. I have to say, I got extremely obsessed with gardening. And it just gets worse, as those of you who garden know. It just, you keep telling yourself, you know, this year I'm just going to just toss a few things in, or this year I'm not going to weed. I'm just going to forget about all that. I'm not going to plant another tree. That's not happening. And then I get so excited because in Edmonton, the gardening season is late May to early October. I mean, I literally can't leave. I can't work. I can't do anything. I just have to garden. And I don't do my nails during that time. So This tells you everything you need to know about what I'm doing in my garden. It's an abecedarian for the garden. Alas, I know so little about gardening because raised by busy parents in the suburbs, crops were mostly bean sprouts on the countertop. Yet digging is cathartic. And once you gouge out a square, earth's muck beneath the useless grass, you may as well flick a few easy seeds from their bright packets. Your ground rich, rattled with plastic bits, dreams, not harvests, just a ripple of fierce green tips inching. On the prairies, they say, don't plant before May, but June could also be nippy with slush or hard rains that kill all the full sun needs. Little ambition, mostly love of beauty, sends you to greenhouses, garden centers, to mail ordering trees that arrive as freeze-dried sticks. No hope they will soon yield. A potterer, you're open to positing, randomness, seeing what happens when, posing what ifs to the soil, weather, location, engaged in slow queries. The former owners planted bitter cukes, a thatch of irises, red tomatoes that stayed green in downpours, became spectral by fall. Mainly, they built raised boxes, then moved. The now is up to you. What remains, what you're quickly uncovering, mixed with decisions regarding future visions, happy accidents, imagined glories, and the ever-present weeds you cannot pull entirely, drawn always to the free and wild amid xanthismas. Yes, that's my ex. Xanthismas, spiky blooms, a plot of broccoli, peas in their twisting climb, yarrow against the dandelion, perhaps some carrots, 2 shades of kale, zinnias down every border, the generosity of zucchinis, and why not a rose? I did kill the rose. I'm still guilty about that. But however, as my intro said, I grow 14-foot sunflowers. Now, that's not really hard, but still there's something magical, obviously, about growing this gargantuan bloom that's quite terrifying, especially as it starts to die. And I have this full cycle thing with them. So at the end, I have a fire pit in my backyard. So I cut them down. Literally, you have to saw them down. I mean, they're huge trunks. And then I have a fire pit and burn them because I'm a vegan. So this is a 3-part, short parts, piece about one of my gargantuan sunflowers, Sunflower August. The mammoth is its own planet. Each day for months it grows inches, thickens, its pedicel like obese bamboo, leaves plattering out, shading tomatoes and peas, quashing the cedar spread. Height attained, the fleshy receptacle expands, florets first pedaling within, the whole head a conjunction of spikes, fortress grin or alien apparition. Every morning turning in a different direction from the dark seed, already prepared to breathe in the rays, transform bract into corolla. The mammoth is its own planet or a satellite of seeds, each lipping from a sepal and anther. But what is most flagrant, hard to say. The jungle vast leaves, trunk ridged as night's spine, or this inflorescence, all the stigmas melded, fastened in florets, the whole a corolla of twisting always towards the light. The mammoth is its own planet, its face uninhabited by grief. Now growth peaked, it forms seeds within each eventual unsealing and release. It sent a honey musk that weighs your leaning towards your burial in the past, redeems it in part. You've lashed it to the deck as if a siren on the mast, but it never stops widening, and at night floats over the lawn a soft moon in prickly carapace. Believe that it is beyond you, and it is. I just learned that if sunflowers can't find the light, they find each other. So I love that. So before I finish, I want to say that anybody who can name the songs that I did, the 4 tunes, the 4 Canadian songs that I did as a medley, gets a free book mailed to them, because I don't have any anymore here. I don't know. The other day in Burnaby, in my parents' house, I did a little gathering with neighbors, people I'd known forever, and I said, surely these people will get all 4 right. There was 2 people that got 2 of them. So I just ripped a book in half. It's just amazing knowledge. You know, when you have knowledge of something, you think, well, of course there's going to be other people with this knowledge. Does anybody know, or should I tell you? No, you didn't. You could only know from the refrain, the verse, the chorus, which you can easily, like Canada Is, that's the name of the song. So that's that's Roger Whittaker. Okay, Canada Is Roger Whittaker. Mon Pays, that's also the name of the song, right? So it's actually all contained in there. And then that's Gilles Vigneault. And so I wanted to pick an English one and a French one because I was raised with English and French. And then I wanted to pick a Vancouver song. It's actually hard to find Vancouver songs. Rolf Harris sang that one, which is very weird. Once you say, do you remember Rolf Harris? He sang Jake the Peg with the extra leg. And like people are like, oh, what kind of childhood did you have? And then the last one is Gordon Lightfoot, Alberta Bound. So there you go. So I'd like to end with a brief lyric for the bees, because we are nothing and nobody and nowhere without them. And this is called Lullaby. The old bees are the ones you see in the yard, those chosen for the last gathering of pollen after their other duties are done. Feeding the queen her royal jelly while they scrape by on bread. Mating in the hive, dancing the directions of flowers, all those patterned tasks. The old bees pause inside corollas, examine the fable of stamens. Soon they will receive the stigmata of gold upon their bellies and thighs, and then they will fly one final time into the sun. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have not much to add to that. Just give another round of applause for Catherine Owen.